Good morning, everyone. Here is your fun fact of the day. A couple weeks ago, I told you about the 17 or so variables that plants will need to survive and thrive. And while that is true, if you intend to grow a new lawn from seed, or even just fill in some bare areas bigger than 3 or 4 inches, then you're going to need to take into account some extra delicate measures of all these variables. First of all, you can get away with not fertilizing with every single nutrient this plant will need. Most of those micronutrients are already available in the soil. Depending on the soil you have, some will be more available, some not as much. But you will still need your 3 macronutrients. Usually you can get away with a good starter fertilizer, something like 12-12-12, because phosphorus is very important for a new seed that's just germinating or a seedling that's trying to get established. Usually the bag will have the specific rates on there. You will have to do a bit of math, but the bag itself will tell you what fertilizer and how much to put on. Carbon dioxide, that's pretty simple. There's enough of that in the air already. You don't need to work on specifically pumping carbon dioxide at this new seed to make it grow, inhale really deeply. Unless you're growing this seed in a closet or inside a plastic bag, it will probably have enough air to work with. Water can get a little trickier, because while a new seed should have some pretty moist soil to work with, you can definitely drown a new seed. A seed can definitely die underwater and therefore not grow. So while the environment may provide some water, it can provide too much. And just the same, it can also provide not enough. And you'll need to take this into account, because if you plant your seed too late, middle or late spring, and you hit the summer droughts early before the seed is fully established, you're going to need to supplement water. Otherwise, you can expect the seed to die. Just think of it. As a seedling, it's a young plant. It's literally a baby plant. Human babies, much the same way, require intensive care. You can't just simply give them a gallon of water and expect them to be good for the week. It doesn't work that way. Neither does it work that way with plants. And sunlight you need to do a little bit more research on, even though you have a little bit more forgiveness in this area. 6 hours of direct sunlight counts as full sunlight for a day. You will need to take into account what objects, houses, trees, buildings, etc., will actually cast shade on where you're trying to plant new seed at. When you take this into account, you will see that new seedlings, some of them grow better in the shade, some of them grow worse in the shade. The individual seed variety you will have to research as far as what its specific shade requirements or sun requirements are. There's a couple grass cultivars that I can remember, but not remember the names of, grow better in 90% shade. They don't like direct sunlight hardly at all. Other sun grasses will do better with 10 hours of sunlight, so long as it's not terribly intensive. There is such a thing as too much sun, as anyone south of the Arctic Circle can attest to. Grass will start to turn brown if exposed to too much sun, too much heat, and not enough water. That's just a fact. Seedlings, younger, more delicate plants, will need a little bit more intensive care. Sunlight can easily dry them out, so you have to keep them cooled off. A little bit more water on them, a little bit more water in the soil around them. Other details you have to take into account include your soil, the type, the compaction, how compact it is. A seed can't grow on cement, so if your soil is rock hard, break it up a little bit, scratch it, dig it, add a lot of topsoil to help the seed out. Additionally, on the seed type you get, sometimes they will come with instructions as far as how dense to put it down. You shouldn't just throw 2 or 3 seeds in an area this big, obviously. Also, you should not completely cover an area this big with a complete layer of seed. Also not good. Besides the fact your birds are going to eat most of it, it's going to start having its own competition issues. Find recommended rates for the seed, find recommended rates for the fertilizer, water appropriately, make sure you have it in the appropriate sunlight, and make sure there's a little bit of airflow. Thank you for joining me for this fun fact of the day. See you again soon.